Okay, so we're going to do a design today that's foil, but we're going to use Tamise flakes as well. These are Tamise flakes. They are just little scraps of leaf, metal leaf, mixed up. You can get them in kind of different mixes. They're very useful. They give a really nice effect. They are messy, so we're going to use those on through a stencil, and then we're going to foil the stencil. So this would be great for a panel, for cabinet doors or anything like that. They would be really nice. So I'm going to show you how I go about starting off doing this, and then we'll do the Tamise flakes and we'll do the foil. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is place my stencil where I want it to be. And what you always want to do with stencils is check them with a level. Now obviously use a level suitable to the size that you're doing. I've got lots of levels and I can't find the small ones anywhere, but you always want to check that you've got things straight and level. It's like wallpapering, you know, when you stencil, if you don't get the first one on nice and level, then the rest of them are just going to go off. So always check for level. So that one isn't level there, so that needs to just come out a little bit. So when you're stenciling, always take the time to get the first stencil on true, and then if you're stenciling a wall, check every now and then. It really is just like wallpapering, but if you've never wallpapered, you wouldn't know. Okay, so I'm going to put a piece of tape there. This is where I want my stencil to be. And then I'm going to run tape down the side of the stencil. And then I'm going to take the stencil down. So this is the area that I need to size. And I'm not sizing here because I'm leaving that. Now, if that was, you know, a door or something, it could even maybe be, you know, the wood grain or whatever you wanted it to be, whatever colour you wanted it to be, that would be what we were doing there. So I'm just going to size this now. So I'm going to tape either top and the bottom because I don't want to get the size there. I'm going to make sure that the tape is lying down nicely, and then I'm taking the wonder size and I'm using the flocked roller. And I'm making sure all covered in size. And then I'm just taking the weight of the roller and I'm coming down. And this is just to get rid of the bubbles, because if the bubbles dry, it dries as a texture. So all you're doing here is guiding the roller. You're not putting any pressure on, you're just guiding it, and you'll see as you do that, those bubbles disappear. You want that to be as smooth as possible. And now we're going to let that dry for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to put on another coat, which I won't show you, just so that you know that I use 2 coats. And when that's dry, we'll come back and we'll start the stencil. Okay, so we are all tacked up, and I'm going to place my stencil, and I don't really need to be worrying too much about leveling it up now, because I've I levelled it up and I put the tape on, so I know kind of where it needs to sit. And of course it's going to just lie down nicely because the surface is tacky. So just make sure there's no little bits sticking up. And then we'll get our Tamise flakes. I'm going to tip some out onto this plate so that I can get at them. Now they are very light. If you breathe, they'll blow. So just pick some up in your fingers and just start pushing them through the gaps. And this is basically what you're doing. You're just pushing it through. It's not difficult. It's pretty easy to do. And you just want to make sure that you get all the stickiness covered. Now, often when I'm doing things like this, if I'm working with this kind of stuff or with powders, with the metallic powders, I tell people to start at the bottom because of like what's happening here, it floats down. But because we're doing all of this in the same stuff, it really doesn't matter in this case. Sometimes you get pieces in your container that are really big. Try to avoid using those. Try to split them up if you can. For instance, that's a really big piece, and you wouldn't want that because you'd get a big block of the gold, and that's not what we want. So it's just in your fingers and just rub on. If when you pick up some of this, you find you've got a big lump of the same colour, then just dot it around rather than putting it all in the same place. Just dot round with it and then go back and fill in those spaces with something else. And you will find that the Tamise flakes often stick together, so you want to rub quite hard because you don't want a thick lump. So I'm going to take fairly large pieces now of the gold, and I'm just going to go over it to catch any little spaces that we may have missed, because it's quite easy to do that. And you're just wanting to make sure that covered the edges of these openings so that you get the shapes. So, you know, if for instance you've missed a bit in the middle, it really wouldn't matter that much, but you want the shapes. So I've got a piece of paper on the floor underneath this to catch all the little bits that are floating down, and I'll get those picked up later on. So just take your hands over it and rub it down. Try to make sure you've got everything covered. Now I use these sheepskin. If you're watching this in America, you can buy scraps of sheepskin in Home Depot in a bag. In this country I buy the polishing bonnets and I cut them up. So, and when you cut them up, you just want to spend a bit of time doing this because get rid of the loose pieces. And now we're just going to burnish that in. Just want to make sure it's all lying nice and flat. And we want to try and get anything that's floating around off, because we are going to take the stencil off and underneath is still sticky under the stencil. So we just want to try and make sure there's no bits floating around. And then we just take the stencil off nice and gently and slowly. We've got, and that's what's so pretty, is it's random, you know, you don't really have any control over how the colour's going on, but it looks so pretty when it's done. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to foil a black foil over this whole piece here, because I really like it against the black, but you could obviously put any colour in there, foil that you wanted. It's up to you. Okay, so that's the black foil, that's the other side. Remember, we always put it the side up that we want to transfer. I'm going to just put that on there like that. Moving it back. I can see we haven't got a full transfer, but it's not sticky, so I'm not going to worry about it. And there it is. So the sticky's gone. I would still, you know, do a finish over that. And like I say, this could be anything on either side. But I think that looks really nice, and I think, you know, you could do that with a lot of different stencils. Obviously, it doesn't have to be like this. It could be any stencil that you choose. It could be even just a geometric pattern that you've done in tape, and then use the Tamise flakes. It would look really, really